For you to be skilled at something, you need to have talent, but multiplied by hours of effort to be able to have that skill.
Where the guy without talent starts here, the guy with talent starts here, but over time, the talented guy, he hasn't figured out how to work hard because he's relying on his talent, and the hard worker, you know, over years, he might get to his level, but he'll continue growing.
Like if you're a talented individual, you don't put in the effort because you don't want to give yourself the opportunity to lower and hurt your ego.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Charge It to the Game. I'm with my hosts, Rome, Nasrallah, Rome Like the City, and my partner, Amon.
Nice to see you, by the way, bro.
Thanks for the memo on the suits and the jackets, by the way.
You're always fresh, homie, bro.
I appreciate the heads up. Guys, today's episode, we're going to be talking about effort versus talent, right? I think, we've been in this game now for a very long time. We've worked with so many reps at this point. And yeah, I think there's really two approaches to sales, right? There's the hustler, the numbers guy, the hard worker, right? The effort guy. And then there's the talented closer, right? The skilled closer, the sniper, as opposed to the shotgun, I guess you can call it, right? But we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna talk about, effort, talent, what's better, what should you focus on, how should you approach it. Let's jump in, guys.
Yeah.
Any thoughts come to mind on that topic?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think that talent has anything to do with skill. Period. Talent. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, all my life, I thought that I had to be talented to become successful. Like, I would go to school. This guy, his name is Abdurrahman. And this motherfucker would never study, and he would always get fucking just straight A's all the time. And I feel like this guy either lived life twice or something, or he invented calculus, and I don't know, And so I always felt like an idiot, basically. And I'm always like, okay, this is how they're born. They're fucking geniuses, and unfortunately, that's not me. So I always thought, I'm like, okay, fuck it, talent matters more than anything, more than effort, more than anything. But only recently in my life, I realized that's fucking false. Effort counts twice as much as fucking talent, right? Because you said talent is different than skill. What's the difference? For you to be skilled at something, you need to have talent, but multiplied by hours of effort to be able to have that skill to, in our case, objection handle, to, in our case, identify the type of buyer you're talking to, how to lead the conversation. If you're just talented, you're not going to be able to have that skill without applying effort, hours of effort for you to get there. I'll tell you this, I'll tell you what modern science says about talented people and, people who are successful. Do you guys know Anders Ericsson?
No.
Okay.
You say that like I'll tell you about modern science.
He's a cognitive scientist, and he goes around the world and he studies like the most successful people. Like, he sits at Sudoku, he sits at like the World Cup, studies the most successful people.
Okay.
Right, and he found that for you to be mediocre to get to being really good, it takes 10,000 hours, and I think we all know that 10,000 hour rule, right? But the thing is that you see all the time people with their 9 to 5s working 10 years, 20 years. They've done tens of thousands of hours. They're not that fucking successful, are they? We've seen how many people in this space, even our competitors who've been in this space for 5 years, I'm sure they've done over 10,000 hours of sales calls. But when we go on YouTube and we listen to their calls, we're like, okay, there's no competition.
Right.
And so the common denominator is what? It's not the quality. It's not the quantity. It's the quantity. It's what you're doing in those hours, the quality of effort that you're putting in.
Right.
And what I feel like differentiates the both is that, like, for example, like, if a company finds somebody who's talented, okay, good for you. Good for you. But you have no guarantee that person is hardworking, is growth-oriented, has resilience, is going to finish what they started. So I think that's like the biggest difference between People who are talented and then versus people who are ready to put in effort and ready to finish what they started. Otherwise, most talented people who don't have passion towards anything, have no interest towards anything, end up quitting.
Is
most
that
of the
what you
time.
would say is like the main thing? Like the people who have talent aren't passionate about what they're doing, which is why they're not putting in the effort?
I mean, people who are talented but aren't where they should be. Yes, you know what I mean. Who didn't put in the effort. Yes, 100%. They will reach a point where it's called, I think, I forgot the word, where they're just like content and then they're like just quit because they have no passion about it.
Right.
But the people who make it work, the people who like to want to start what they finish, that who will take years and decades to get really really good at something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like talent, because like you hear it sometimes, like, oh, like the naturally talented salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this person is just naturally talented, right? There's something about him that just allows him to be good, right? Like your friend.
Abdurrahman.
Abdurrahman, yeah.
Yeah.
God bless this guy. I
Yeah.
mean, I know what he's doing right now. Like, I know he's making probably 100K, 120K. I know what he does. I see him on IG, you know. He could have done a lot more with his life. But he's happy. I mean, no, kudos to him. But it doesn't mean just because you're talented, you're going to be the super fucking successful person.
Yeah, well, what happens is, like, you know, if you're, you know, if that's what it is, right? Talent is like you're born with something, right? You kind of have something, and you rely on it, right? And then what happens is, you know, as opposed to the individual who isn't born with anything, right? Who doesn't have any natural skill sets, you know, they might learn the skill of hard work and effort and grinding and getting 1% better every single day, right? Where the guy without talent starts here, the guy with talent starts here, but over time, the talented guy, he hasn't figured out how to work hard because he's relying on his talent, and the hard worker, you know, over years he might get to his level, but he'll continue growing.
Yes.
And then over the long run, you know, talent, it's not even in the equation, right? Because you can develop those skills through hard work. You know.
Why do you think that's the case? Like, why do you think the talented person, even though they see the person who's putting in the effort creep up on them, why do you feel like they don't kind of kick themselves in the ass and put in more effort?
Passion. They don't have passion. They're not interested as much as the other person. That's it.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it
what
comes down to something, passion as well, but I was looking at it from the perspective of like ego. Like, if you're a talented individual, you don't put in the effort because you don't want to give yourself the opportunity to lower and hurt your ego. But the person who's just focused on effort, you know, they're like, yeah, I'm okay with eating shit. I'm okay with rejection. I'm okay with the bullshit. I'm just going to lean into the repetition. And I see that, you know, with a lot of reps, but, you know, I also see that with some of us. Like, I remember coming into this, you know, I definitely had some talent, but I can say that for all of us, like, even though we had different levels of talent, we all put in the effort to make sure that we didn't rely only on the talent.
Yeah, because like grinding, right? Putting in the extra effort, going harder, that means that you have to put your ego on the line, right? You have to risk failure. You know, where like we see talented guys who will be talented, they're good, but they won't go that extra mile because I think like they just don't want to fail. They just don't want to hurt their ego, right? Yeah, no, that's a really good point that you made. That's a good one. But okay, I was gonna ask, like, do you guys feel like you guys came in with any like natural talents or anything, anything that served you, that allowed you to you know, get to where you're at now?
To be honest, I've said this on other podcasts where I would say like I didn't come in with talent, but to be honest, like all of you guys and like the people around me kind of said like, bro, like you kind of had that sauce.
Yeah.
And like I didn't see that, but no, I definitely had talent coming into this. But for me, I'd say my talent wasn't necessarily like sales per se, but for me, my talent has been and is, you know, just like that empathy and that compassion for others, and like I really genuinely gave a shit. And once I, you know, paired that up with the money-making opportunity. Why are you smiling, bro? What do you want to say? What are you gonna say? You don't give a fuck about that. You just care about the money.
No. Let me tell you from my perspective, and you tell me, because you know, obviously me and Ahmad, we you know, known each other for like how long now? Since grade 9.
Yeah. And you're always the cool kid. What I know and everybody says and confirms to this day is that you were the coolest kid. You're one of the cool guys at school.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that helped somehow, bro.
Bro. Okay, so like, let me tell you my perspective because I've known you now almost 10 years, right? So yeah, like growing up, bro, in school, always like, you know, always dressing fly, always wearing cool ass clothes, new shoes on his feet every single day. Bro, at grade 9 and 10, right? We're all working minimum wage job. Amon's got $500 pairs of kicks, $1,000 pairs of kicks.
Crazy,
stunting, bro. Every single day, you know. Rocking the braid up, rocking the, you know, the man bun before it was cool, you know. So I think that because even when we started sales, right? I think you had that confidence in yourself. Where like I can't say that I always had that confidence in myself growing up. Like I think a lot of like for me, like it came from like sports, but outside of that, like it wasn't anything crazy. But like you were outgoing, right? You were very expressive, you know. And I think when you first started sales, it's like, you know, when we started, like you almost had that, because I see some people, they'll like overthink, right? Some people are like, they might be smart, they might be intelligent, but like they're so smart and they're so intelligent where they just get wrapped up in how other people view them and might perceive them, and because of that they drop who they really are, right? And they suppress themselves, you know. And I think, but because bro, you were the first one putting up big numbers. You were the first one leading the team from day one. The reason why I laughed about the compassion thing, not because you don't, because you do, 100%. But I remember, bro, especially like year one of sales, bro, you would tell the craziest stories that were complete.
We're not gonna get into that.
This guy was like, at like 19 years old, he's like, yeah, 100%, you know, and like, you know, I have a daughter myself, and you know, like I just had a baby 6 months ago.
Okay, just for the record, I don't condone any of this in sales. I've learned,
bro,
but I had to make the mistakes.
No, for sure. I mean, there's some people who like lie unethically, right? And they're like, oh, I make $1 million and blah 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 blah.
I heard that call. I thought you had a daughter and you didn't tell me. I'm like, I
Bro,
didn't ask
got
him
a
about
baby
this.
mama?
I'm like, shit, I'd believe it.
No. So yeah, it's like you would just like come up with stories just to like, relate to people.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, again, it did come from a place of like wanting to help them. It was never like bragging about myself, but it was always about like getting them to like take action.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's a superpower of yours, bro. You know. Yeah.
We'll take the other side of that. So like, I mean, whenever I came in and I saw your confidence, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, like he's like 8 years younger than me and has a lot more confidence than I do. I'm like, holy shit. And so, well, that's because when I came in, I mean, I wasn't the coolest kid. I was actually one of the biggest losers in school. I was bullied throughout my life. I was called an idiot, a dumbass. I was always picked last. I was never picked for a school team. So that's why I believe truly I came in with no talent. I came with nothing, no skill, absolutely nothing. Like I really had to take my time to learn everything from scratch. Like how to even start walking. Like I went to a therapist to teach me how to walk confidently. I'm like, okay. I went to people older people that showed me how to introduce myself confidently, how to say hello, from just how to say hello, you know, all the way to developing this fucking skill of sales, which is allowing me to make multiple 6 figures a year now. It took me, I had to learn everything. And not even once. When somebody taught it to me, you taught me something to me, or you taught something to me, bro, I had to go home and do it again and again and again and again. It's just this like I wanted it so bad, bro. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was because to prove everybody else that I'm not an idiot, that I can make this happen. But I'd say I definitely struggled more than the average person getting into sales.
Yeah, bro, and it's so cool that you know, whenever you talk about it, right? Because you don't really like see that stuff, because all that stuff is behind the scenes, right? Like something I was listening to I was telling you about the Founders podcast, right? Cool podcast, Founders, on Spotify. And it was like a Michael Jordan one. He was talking, apparently Michael Jordan wrote a book in like the 90s or something, talking about like the Jordan brand, right? Like this book I never heard of, right? And something he was talking about was like, you are like people praise you for what nobody sees.
Yep.
Right? People praise you for the results that come from the times that nobody sees, where you're grinding, where you're at home on your own, studying something or practicing a skill set or doing something. That's where the praise comes from. Everybody wants the praise, but nobody wants the work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you did that, bro. But because even the now that we're growing, what we're doing more now that obviously we're leaders in our agency. We're doing what we're doing with Millionaire Closer, a training company. We're putting on multiple live events every single year. It's like we've had to grow and learn skills very fast. Like even what you told me about like how you were preparing for your speech and what you were going to talk about like months in advance before that event. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we've done at that point four.
That was the fourth one.
That was the fourth
Yeah,
talk.
that we're going into, yeah.
And I saw the amount of, because I who am I comparing myself to? Myself and you guys, because you guys are my team, right? Well, you're my dog. So I see you guys like not stressing about it up until like a week before, then start planning. So I started doing the same, and I completely flunked my first one, second one, and third one, because I did the same thing. I started preparing a week before, right?
I don't think you completely flunked, by the way. But
I know
yeah.
you just have high
Yeah,
standards.
you just have high
so that's
standards.
why.
for
Could have
yourself,
done
for
a
sure.
lot better, bro.
Yeah.
Could have done a lot better.
All of us.
And that's because I did no repetition, right? Because I compared to myself with people who were better than me. And remember, I came to Canada when I was 18 years old and started to learn English again. Yes, I was born here, lived here for a couple of years, but then all I spoke was Arabic, right?
Yeah.
So my level of language and communication isn't as great as you guys are. So for my fourth one, I'm like, that's it. Like I hired a coach. I had a public speaking coach. We started preparing 2 months before, started writing everything down. A month in, we finished the structure, and then every day we would rehearse. Every
Nice.
fucking day. I would stand up, rehearse, and body language and everything every single day. I did it. I legitimately rehearsed maybe about 25 times before I went on stage. And
Did you add the pizza pockets in the rehearsal?
the pizza pockets was the night before. The night before, my coach was like, I'm like,
Pattern interrupt.
yeah. He's like, what do you want to do? He's like, what do you want to do on stage that's gonna catch everybody's eye? Do you want to walk up? He's like, do you want to walk with a? You want to get a samurai sword and just walk with it on stage, saying nothing, and just hold it the whole time and talk?
You should have done that. Fucking sick, bro.
He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, one thing that I did it worked is this. He's like, when I go out to the crowd, just so I could bring everybody's energy up, I go, ayo. And then they go, ayo. And then you see their energy.
Yeah.
And then you just start off at a high energy. So I'm like, I winged it, bro. That I practiced once, bro.
That got everyone.
That was good.
alive.
And by the way, if you guys want to see that video, Rome's channel is linked down below. You'll see it. What's it called? How
I built confidence. Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, but go
The whole
check
thing
that
was
out.
like, money ain't shit without confidence. Ain't shit without the person who you build in the process. That was the whole talk about. It's like how I built confidence. But yeah, bro, I had just to do it again and again. I had to just practice a lot more, put in a lot more effort to have a good presentation.
Speaking of that video, I feel like that video has a lot of parallels to what we're talking about right now, effort versus talent. Because like the whole confidence video that you speak about, you're talking about this where you're practicing, you're mentally visualizing yourself executing either a talk or a sales call or something. I mean, we can get into the spiritual side where it's like the emotions and the personality, but when it comes down to everything you just shared, it's crazy how, again, like what you were saying, behind the scenes, you put in so much effort, but people only see, the talent. They only see the 40-minute presentation that you did. They didn't know that you were practicing 40 minutes every single day for 60 days in a row.
That's what it takes, and it's like that's the I think that's the skill, like the skill of learning and the skill of skill development, right?
Yeah.
And being able to like work on something and improve it, and learn fast and adjust quickly, and then be able to like look at your weaknesses, stomach it because it's not comfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's really uncomfortable to like really look at yourself raw, objectively, and say,
Yes.
"Damn, I
I
fucking
suck.
suck at
I
this."
suck.
And then you have to be willing to drop your ego, be a beginner,
Yes.
and then slowly work your way up from that point.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do.
100%. And that's why it took me fourth, like after the third event, that's when I'm like, fuck it, I can't do this by myself. Because I'm like, okay, let me do this again. I'll just put in more effort. And I'm like, how did I become good at sales? I got a mentor. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find somebody who already knows public speaking, who've taught hundreds of people to teach me. And that's what I did. I spent a little bit of money to make that happen, bro. But first it started with, I suck. I realized I suck and accepted that, and I was okay with that. I was ready to learn. I want to touch up on that topic about the speech, something really funny. And I would have been upset if this happened years ago, but I laughed this time because I understood why. And it was a time that I did. That time I went for 2 months, 60 days preparing for my speech. And then the day of our event, this guy over here was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to change my whole speech. I think I'll talk about this and this. I'm like, yeah, do it, bro. You sure? I mean, you didn't rehearse for too long? He's like, no, just a couple of days. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably just change it. Come on, motherfucking nigga, bro. I don't know how you did that, bro.
Well, bro,
I just laughed because I knew it, like, we're just different human beings.
Well, bro, like to be honest with you, it's the same topic, like I felt that, I could just hop on, bullshit my way through it, get it done and execute. But like, I wasn't like super happy with how it went. I know I could have definitely done better, but because I felt that, my talent was there, I didn't have to work as hard. You know what I mean? So it's the same concept.
It's also, you do like 10 coaching calls or like 7 coaching calls a week.
Yeah.
That was a powerful message. Well, what do you mean you didn't feel like you did as well as you could have?
It was like execution, delivery, all of that. But like I wasn't tripping about it, but no, I know for next time, But I think the key message that we're kind of getting into here, right? Because effort versus, talent in sales, right? You don't want to be one or the other all the way, right? Like you don't want to be the numbers guy, right? You don't want to be the guy that's forever stuck on just maxing out your inputs, right? And you have no control over your outcome, right? You got to start that way, right? Where you're doing a crazy amount of dials to begin with. But you don't want to be that guy forever. And then also at the same time, you don't want to be the guy that just, relies on pure talent, right? It's got to be somewhere in the middle. I think the key thing with effort is it's not necessarily, effort in your sales day is a given, like doing your outbound calls, going hard, going 100%, not being fucking lazy. Like that goes without saying. And if you are being lazy, like, that's just, brokey shit. But anyways, I think the key with like the effort, it's being intentional, right? And it's effort when it comes to your growth and skill development, right? The stuff behind the scenes of getting better. If you're okay, if someone's in a phase where they're doing 200 phone calls a day, right? And it's just like a crazy amount of work. Like, okay, how much time of your day, if you're spending, 10 hours on the phone, how much time of your day is going towards like analyzing and making an adjustment? Because so many people will just do the crazy amount of work, and then at the end of the day, it's like you're tired, you're exhausted. Last thing you want to do is like analyze where you fucked up on a really bad sales call that you missed, right? The last thing you're going to do is that, right? And then you just go into the next day expecting things to be different. I'm just going to go as hard as possible and then hope the leads are ready to buy or hope I'm in a better state or in a better flow, right? And like that's just a strategy to never see any growth whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
That needs to be intentional.
We should talk about that.
Yeah, when it comes down to like the intentionality, like, when you're seeing new reps or new reps come to you for advice, like how do you guide them on being more intentional with their efforts into like one specific area of improvement as opposed to just the shotgun approach that we were talking about earlier? How do you get them to be a sniper?
Yeah, I think because again, that's a skill, right? That's something that you can improve on, And sometimes when I'm working with my reps, it's very obvious to me. You're just gonna work on this and forget about everything else. Like stop worrying about fucking everything else. Just focus on this one thing. Bless you. But it's not obvious to them, right? Sometimes I'm like, oh wow, it's actually not that obvious, right? But number one is like knowing what to focus on and what just to forget about and never worry about, right? like a question I ask, like Francesco is always walking into our room, right? Like multiple times a day. Misha, what do I do when my prospect says this? He's an Italian guy. What do I do when my prospect don't have the money?
Shout out Francesco.
Yeah, killer. But yeah, he's always walking into my room with like any problem that he runs into on a sales call, right? He hears this, he hears that, he hears this. Something's happening. Every single time he's coming to me asking about it, right? Which is totally fine, right? But like the feedback that I give him a lot of times is like, okay, cool. So that problem that you just explained, like, how much is this coming up? How often do you run into this, right? How many times a day do you run into this? And he's like, oh, well, once a week, this is the first time it's ever happened. And I'm like, bro, forget about it.
Exactly.
Like, just stop stressing about it. Stop putting energy towards it. Like, it doesn't matter. What's happening every day, right? Like, what's a problem that you're running into on a daily basis? Okay, great. Let's look at that problem. Let's come up with an adjustment we can make, and let's just focus on that one thing. So I think a big part of it is like knowing what to focus on, and knowing like what's the biggest needle mover.
And to add to that, you need to find like the right support system. Like, forget about like, yeah, mentor is one thing, but when you're applying and you're onboarding yourself into like a new sales role, like you got to look at the managers, you got to look at the people who are leading you, because if Francesco didn't have someone like yourself who could identify like the very clear but not so clear things that they need to work on, I mean, who knows where he'd be at in terms of production. So it's like, when it comes down to effort, yeah, there's a lot that you can do, but it's hard to, direct and be intentional with your efforts if you lack the experience and you lack the expertise.
I think it's on us as managers and as leaders to tell them exactly what it is they need to do, because if they knew, they would do it.
Yeah.
But it's on them to just take action.
Yeah.
And it's also on them to come to you for help, because you wouldn't help someone that doesn't
Correct.
help
Correct.
himself.
But we also have to make that clear to them, but hey, that you can come to me. By the way, you have access to me. Like, don't be shy. Like, you have access to me. Just like let's voicing that. We cannot expect them, because they might be thinking, oh, I can't. If I ask them, they're going to think I'm stupid or something. So I think it's very important as a leader, as a manager, to let you guys know that they can come to you. And you are at their disposal.
Yeah.
And then that's what you can do. And then it's up to them to actually make it happen.
They used to the Persians. They used to whenever it's where the saying shoot the messenger comes from, right? Whenever a Persian
Where's this guy learn these facts?
whenever a Persian messenger would like pull up to the king and be like, yo, like we lost that battle, like it wasn't good. They would just shoot them. They would just kill them, right? So it's like all of a sudden, the way that you're training the messengers is to like not come to you when there's bad stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, that's another thing too, right? If someone says, oh, like I fucked up, this is what I did, this is what went wrong, or this is what I'm struggling with, you have to come with positivity on that, right? And like reinforce the behavior of coming, seeking feedback, right?
That encouragement to come again, instead of like, even if it was a dumb question, like to not make him look like an idiot, because if you do, then they're not going to come back to you, and then you ain't going to make any money, period. You have to look for somebody else to hire. So encouragement is huge. That's on us.
Yeah, but back to kind of what we were talking about, right? Because I think there's a couple different layers to that. You have to be able to take it one step at a time also, right? Like whenever we start working with a new rep, right? It's like you listen to their call, and there is 10 things that they need to improve on, and it's like, to us, it's so simple. Okay, so I need you to change your tonality here, and I need you to say this, and I need you to dig deeper on that, and then I need you to emphasize this and tailor that, and do all of this, and then you'll be successful, right? And then
It's a lot.
yeah, they don't hear anything, right? Yeah. So like even as a closer, analyzing your own calls and analyzing what's happening in your day, like I'm guilty of that too, of like thinking, oh, there's a million things that I could be doing better, but it's like, okay, like what's the first thing? What's the biggest thing that I can improve on that would have the highest ROI on my performance, right? Like I remember when we were doing calls with Ty, and we're taking 20, 25, 30 calls a day. On top of that, doing hundreds of dials in between calls, like, and we're also spending like crazy money on ads at the time too, so there was a lot of pressure on us to perform. You know, if a day went by, and let's say the day didn't go the way I wanted it to, right? It wasn't a good day. Numbers weren't where they needed to be, right? I would find, well, two things, right? One, I would find a lot of you know, almost like comfort, I guess. You know, like I wouldn't like blame myself for a bad day if I took the time to just reflect, analyze, and make an adjustment,
Boom.
right?
Boom.
Because if I didn't do that, then yeah, you start blaming. Oh fuck, I could have done better. Blah blah blah. I hopefully tomorrow is better,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't fucking get better.
I want to
You
add
know?
something to that really quick because I'm just rereading Psycho-Cybernetics.
Nice.
They talk about that exact concept where a lot of talented people, you know, if they have a 0 day, you know, they'll associate the 0 day to themselves as opposed to just isolating the 0 day in itself. I'll explain because that was kind of a little bit confusing.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Like if you have a 0 day, you know, a talented individual will be like, I am a failure. But if you're someone who's really focused on effort, you know, you'll be like, oh, I just had a 0 day. I had a bad day. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I am a failure. I will try again tomorrow. But that talented person, back to what we were talking about earlier with ego, it hurts them because they associate themselves to the failure.
And then they start blaming other shit,
Exactly.
right? Because
It's
yeah,
the leads.
exactly.
It's them. It's a low show up rate. It's
They don't
that.
have money.
Yeah. It's the leads. Low show up rate. They're broke. They're not interested.
Yeah. So that's huge. It would give me a, you know, like, okay, day went bad, right? You left it all in the court. What's in your control, right? Because when you can analyze, now we can take control over the outcome, right? So like what I would do is, you know, you look back on one of these days, and so much shit happened. You had so many conversations. You know, your whole day is a complete blur. I would just go and look at like the 3 conversations that were the biggest missed opportunities. Like I'm not stressing about like the crazy skeptical motherfucker that like hopped on the call with a crazy. I'm not even thinking about that guy. I couldn't care less about him. I'm thinking about the person who was like right there on the edge, right? But like I didn't build a connection with them. And then at the end they said they wanted to consider it for 2 days. You know, I'm like, fuck, like what happened there, right? And then it's being able to understand, okay, like I think the core of any objection, whatever objection comes out of their mouth, it's either trust,
Belief.
right, belief, or urgency,
Urgency.
right? It's one of those 3 things is always going to be the core. So it's like, it's also being able to look at your call. Prospect says, yeah, I'm just going to think about it, send me an email. I just want to, you know, this isn't the right time for me, right? It's knowing, okay, what was the problem here? Was it trust, belief, or urgency? Maybe it was urgency. Okay, great. How do you build urgency, right? Urgency comes from pain. You know, when the pain of staying where you're at exceeds the, you know,
Pain of change.
uncomfort of taking action, right?
Yeah.
Great. How could I have built more urgency earlier on in the call? Okay, I could have dug deeper on a pain that they mentioned, but I settled. It felt like it was enough, but I was too much of a pussy to ask the tough question. On my note at the end of the day, after doing 500 minutes of talk time, right? The note at the end of the day is, you know, ask the tough question, right? And then tomorrow when I get that, I know I'm gonna ask a tough question and I'm getting 1% better, you know? And I think doing that over time, you know, helped me a lot.
That's a great example. That's a great, simple example of what it means to put in effort to get better, bro. You're putting in more time. Yes, you have to go back to listen to 3 calls that probably were 30 minutes each. It's an hour and a half to listen to those calls and analyze and figure out what you missed. And sometimes you can't see it for yourself. That's why we say it's important for you to go back and listen to your call so you can look at it as a third person outside of the call. But even then, you don't know what you don't know, which is why you need a mentor at the end of the day. You need a coach that can see when you're doing something wrong that you can't tell for yourself. But you know, that was a really good example. But I remember for me, I struggled with urgency. So one of my notes at the end of the day is like, why now? Ask them, why now? Why do they want to make a change now? Because that creates urgency on a call. And then I figured like multiple ways on how to create urgency on a call. And then that was no longer ever a problem. It's a good example. What are other like examples of how somebody can get better, bro?
Well, I think also too, just like you have to get passionate about like learning. You know, you have to turn it into a game. You know, the things that not knowing how to make 20 grand a month in commissions is costing you whatever 20,000 minus what you're making right now is. Right? It might be costing someone $15,000 a month to figure out how to make 20 grand a month. You know, and then just getting like passionate about it, getting excited about it. So like I think like just learning, right? Studying people who are better than you,
Yeah.
listening to podcasts, just expanding your knowledge, expanding who you are as a person. Focusing on the personal development, just constantly growing. I think is big as well. Because in sales, it's like you're paid in proportion to you, right? Like me and Amon were even talking about this before the pod. It's like the better that we get, and the more that we grow, and the more that we learn, the bigger this podcast is going to get, or the bigger anything else is going to get, right? But like it all starts with the internal, right? It's not the fucking thumbnails. It's not the the titles or the anything. It's all it all helps, sure, but it's it's the internal and the skill sets that you have to develop, and then you attract the type of outcomes that you want to happen, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I also believe it comes down to just like raw honesty. We spoke about this, but I don't think we really emphasized it, where it's like we had this little moment where we spoke about, hey, it starts with I suck. A lot of people aren't ready to kind of say that to themselves because of ego or other things, whatever the case may be. But like you'll never be able to learn until you're able to identify like, okay, you know what? I am deficient in some areas. Because I know you guys have probably had reps come up to you guys, after they had a closing opportunity, be like, man, it was such a good call. I don't know where I went wrong. Like I should have closed. Where I was like, I mean, dude.
Bro, I built rapport. I built urgency. They trusted me. I tailored the presentation, but I'm like, okay.
Like, what do you want me to tell you? Like, you're the best at sales, and like, it was this prospect's
You're
fault?
right. It's not your fault. Yeah, not for real.
But it starts with embracing that, because I don't think any of us would be where we're at unless like we had that understanding that we are the reason why we are where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And like that means you own the wins, but that also means you own the losses.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget why you're doing it. You have to take the time to take care of every step of the way, and that's where the effort comes in. Taking care of every single step on the way, whatever you need to get better at. But also, you need to also sometimes stop every day and look at the top of the mountain of where do you want to go and why do you want to get there. And I also think that is also on us as leaders to remind, well, first of all, to know what not only our goals are, but also what are our sales reps' goals and why is it so important to them. So, we keep reminding them of why they're doing this if they need a reminder, right? And also to, like, how Dylan, Dylan, our mentor, he knows exactly what type of car I want. He knows exactly how much money I want to make. And he always reminds me when we have a one-on-one, so he's like, well, this is your goal, right? Like, how are we going to get there?
But he also understands like deeper too, right? Like, and I think that's important because the money in the car, like, okay, that's on the surface, but like, there's always something deeper that's going to drive somebody, right? Like understanding the family stuff, understanding the deep personal shit, and like really getting to know your guys on a deep level, because that's where you create real trust.
100%.
I think
100%. Yeah, and for me, what I wanted to get to is that and this is in the beginning, like even in the interviews, whenever right now we're gonna have we have 90 applicants who are coming to an interview on Saturday, and my biggest question is gonna be for everybody is like, why do you want to do this? Like, what is your goal? And if I don't hear a deep desire to win, and if I feel like they have a really important goal, then I don't think we should hire them.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's gonna be a question that I don't think they're gonna
Be ready
expect and
Not
be
at
ready
all.
for it. And either they're gonna know it or they're gonna if
Bro,
they're
you know the funniest thing? I remember when we were doing big hiring rounds a couple years ago. You know, when I'd be doing interviews and like people would say like fucking clockwork, right? They're like, I'm like, hey, so like, what's your goal here? Like, why do you want to do this? Why is that so important to you? Yeah, I'm just super passionate about like serving customers and like getting to know people and like helping people come to the best solution and solving their problems. I'm like, bro, fuck off. You know, like
Yeah.
it's the most cookie cutter thing, bro. They just don't know like how much time we've spent talking to people and like figuring out what they want. But yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
see.
speaking about that, like an idea just popped into my head that I didn't really think of because I was asking myself, like, even before this podcast and during this podcast, where it's like, well, when you're hiring someone, like if you're a sales manager or you're a business owner, when you're hiring someone, how can you tell if they'll actually put in the effort? And that's a really good point that you bring up. Like, if someone has a deep why, a deep motivation, like it does to a certain extent to me reveal effort because, like, hey, if you have a big goal and you have a deep connection to that goal, you know, you're obviously going to put in the work to get there.
Well, I wouldn't say obviously, but it's a green flag.
Yeah, it's a green flag for sure.
Yeah.
Beige flag.
Yeah, beige flag. Okay.
I mean, because you don't know if they're actually going to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Rome, do you have a training to run? In,
I do
3
have a
minutes?
training in 3 minutes. I can push it if you guys wanna. If you guys have something
No,
else
that's
to
okay.
talk
I
about.
think I think we spoke about a lot of really solid topics. I think this was valuable. I think this was good. By the way, we just dropped a case study today of an individual who like is a self-proclaimed shit at sales, or at least he was before he started working with us. 6 months later, I was pulling in 10 grand a month.
Legend.
Yeah, legend Giles just dropped
Shout
that
out
case
Giles.
study. Highly recommend you guys take some time, check it out. You know, our goal with everything that we do is taking the lessons that, you know, we've learned over the last 5 years and from what we've seen from hundreds of closers and reverse engineering that and sharing that with everybody watching so that you guys can shrink the timeline and get to your goals faster. So highly recommend you guys check that out along with, you know, all three of our YouTube channels. Any final words?
Yeah, speaking about effort, I think that Giles case study is a great example of someone who came in with the intention of, I'm just going to put a shit ton of effort, I'm going to leave it all on the court, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And it's not a surprise that through that intention, through that effort, you know, he was one of our success stories and testimonials.
I love this case study, and I'm not just saying this because you're my boy, my business partner, but I think it's the most comprehensive, detailed case study with screenshots of every single day of every week of what happened, stage by stage, from fucking rookie to making 10,000 with screenshots all the way.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
100%.
That's it, gents.
Cool.
Anything else?
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Lovely. Chargers to the motherfucking game. Until
Peace.
next
Charge it
time.
to the game.